In recent years, the world has once again been filled with the sounds of war. Nations clash, cities are destroyed, and countless lives are lost in conflicts driven by power, territory, ideology, resources, and control. History shows that violence has always been present in human civilization, but the scale and persistence of it continue to raise uncomfortable questions. In nature, violence exists too. Animals hunt, defend territory, and compete for mates. Yet these acts are usually tied to survival. A predator kills because it must eat. Two rivals may fight for dominance, but once the conflict is resolved, balance tends to return. Humans, however, often operate differently. Humans can kill for power, for profit, for ideology, for revenge, for control, sometimes even for pleasure. This capacity for organized and repeated violence against our own species is something rarely seen elsewhere in the natural world. It forces us to confront a difficult thought. Perhaps humanity is not simply another species within nature's balance, but something far more disruptive. There is a question that most civilizations throughout history have avoided asking honestly. What if the greatest threat to life on Earth is not an asteroid, a virus, or some external force, but us? This question is uncomfortable because it forces us to step outside the narratives we created about ourselves. The narratives of progress, advancement, superiority, and control. Yet when we examine the broader patterns of our behavior, something deeply unsettling emerges. Unlike every other species on Earth, humans possess extraordinary intelligence. We can analyze our environment, understand complex systems, and even predict long-term consequences of our actions. And yet, despite that awareness, we continue moving in directions that destabilize the very systems that sustain life. This contradiction sits at the heart of the human story. Every organism in nature operates within certain limits. Predators hunt to survive, not to exterminate their prey. Ecosystems naturally regulate populations through balance. Even aggressive species eventually reach equilibrium with their environment. But humans behave differently. We move into an ecosystem, we expand, we multiply, we extract. Forests disappear, rivers are diverted, oceans are depleted, soils are exhausted. When resources decline, the response is rarely restraint. Instead, we expand further. New land, new markets, new extraction, new growth. If an outside observer studied this pattern objectively, it would look remarkably similar to something biology already understands very well: uncontrolled growth within a host system. This is why the metaphor used by Agent Smith in the movie The Matrix resonates so strongly, because it captures almost uncomfortably well what we observe in reality.
I'd like to share a revelation that I've had during my time here. It came to me when I tried to classify your species. I realized that you're not actually mammals. Every mammal on this planet instinctively develops a natural equilibrium with the surrounding environment, but you humans do not. You move to an area and you multiply, and multiply until every natural resource is consumed. And the only way you can survive is to spread to another area. There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus. Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague.
Human systems often follow a disturbingly similar trajectory: expansion without natural limits. But there is something that makes the human situation even more troubling. Viruses do not know what they are doing. Cancer cells do not understand the consequences of their growth. Humans do. We study ecosystems. We model climate systems. We track biodiversity loss. We publish thousands of scientific papers warning about the consequences of our trajectory. And still the machine continues. Industries expand, consumption increases, extraction accelerates. Not because we must, but because our systems reward it. Profit, power, control. These have become the driving forces of modern civilization. Humanity often justifies its trajectory by pointing to progress, technology, economic growth, infrastructure, global markets. But if we step back and ask a more honest question, what is all of this actually for? The answer becomes less clear. Beyond a certain point, survival is already secured. The planet provides the fundamental conditions for life: air, water, sunlight, food systems, natural materials. Everything else is something we created. And many of those creations now serve systems of accumulation rather than genuine human flourishing. We built machines that accelerate production. We built economies that demand constant growth. We built structures that measure success through expansion rather than balance. And then we convinced ourselves this was progress. Human intelligence is an extraordinary evolutionary gift. But intelligence was never meant solely for domination or expansion. Its deeper potential lies elsewhere. Awareness, creativity, understanding reality, expanding consciousness, living meaningful experiences. The true promise of intelligence was never endless consumption. It was the ability to experience existence more deeply. Imagine a civilization that used its knowledge primarily for extending healthy lifespans, exploring the nature of consciousness, creating art, music, and beauty, developing wisdom, living in harmony with natural systems. A civilization focused not on owning the world, but understanding it, not on extracting from the planet, but participating within it. That would be true progress. Instead, humanity built something else, a system that now behaves almost like an organism of its own, an economic machine that requires continuous growth, a technological system that amplifies expansion, a global network that rewards extraction more than balance. Individuals inside this system often recognize the problem, but systems are powerful. They shape incentives, they shape behavior, they shape the direction of entire societies. And so the machine continues running, even when many of its operators understand that it is unsustainable. Humanity now stands at a unique point in the history of life on Earth. For the first time, a species possesses both the power to destabilize an entire planetary system and the awareness to understand what it is doing. No other organism has ever faced this choice: continue expanding blindly or evolve consciously. The future of the planet may depend on which path we choose. Perhaps the real evolution of humanity is not technological. Perhaps it is psychological, a shift from unconscious expansion to conscious balance, a shift from domination to participation, a shift from accumulation to meaning. The Earth does not need humans to survive. If we vanish tomorrow, forests would return, oceans would heal, ecosystems would recover. But humans are the only species capable of asking the deeper questions. Why are we here? What is intelligence for? What kind of civilization do we want to become? The answers to those questions will determine whether humanity continues behaving like a destructive force or finally becomes something else entirely. A conscious species. One that understands that true progress is not measured by how much we take from the world, but by how deeply we learn to exist within it.